The joke that wasn't funny. The morning sun lit up the tiny apartment in the old part of the city. The paint was peeling off the walls and the floor creaked with every step. But inside, warmth lived. 12-year-old twin sisters, Leena and Lara, sat at a small kitchen table, their eyes bright despite the worn clothes they wore. Their mother, a tired woman with strong hands and a soft voice, poured them tea from a chipped kettle. "Remember," she whispered, "you both have something special. Let no one tell you otherwise." They nodded, each holding the other's hand. They were poor, yes, but they had each other, and they had a gift, a voice so pure it could stop time. They used to sing in the alleyway near the bakery, hoping someone would hear and maybe tip them a coin. Sometimes they got a loaf of bread, other times just cold stares. But still, they sang. This day was different. It was the school's annual talent show. The twins had been secretly signed up to sing by a classmate named Darren, a boy who always laughed when they passed and whispered cruel jokes behind their backs. He had heard them hum once and mocked them ever since. "Let's see if the street rats can really sing," he had told his friends, loud enough for the whole hallway to hear. Leena had wanted to back out. "It's a trap," she had told Lara. "They want us to embarrass ourselves." But Lara shook her head. "No, we go. And we sing." Across the city, in a quiet hotel room, Keanu Reeves was preparing for a surprise appearance at the same school. He had donated books and new musical instruments to their art department after reading about underfunded schools in the area. No one knew he was coming. Not the teachers, not the students. He wanted to see real moments, not rehearsed speeches. He dressed simply, a plain shirt and jeans, and told his driver to keep the visit quiet. Back at school, the auditorium filled, fast. Students laughed, chatted, and whispered about who would perform. Most were excited for Daniela, the rich girl with a perfect smile and a music teacher for a dad. She was the favorite to win. When Leena and Lara's names were called, the room grew quieter, not out of respect, but out of curiosity. Some students leaned forward, others smirked. Darren made loud clapping noises, mocking applause. The twins walked onto the stage with shaky hands. They wore old dresses their mother had stitched from leftover fabric. The microphone stood tall before them, and for a moment, it looked like Leena might run. But Lara squeezed her hand. "We're not here for them," Lara whispered. "We're here for the song." They nodded to the music teacher, who nervously pressed play on the instrumental track they had handed in that morning. The first few seconds passed. Silence. Then a soft harmony. Then came their voices. And the room fell still. It wasn't just beautiful, it was haunting. Raw, filled with a kind of emotion that didn't belong to children. Every note carried a story. Of pain, of hope, of nights without heat and mornings without breakfast. Their voices wrapped around every heart in that room. Keanu had just stepped into the auditorium's side entrance when he heard them. He froze. He was used to beauty. He had worked with some of the greatest artists in the world. But this was different. This was truth in sound. He stood hidden in the shadows, watching the stage, watching two girls turn humiliation into harmony. When the song ended, there was no clapping at first, only silence. It was as if no one wanted to break the spell. Then one child stood, and then another. Then, suddenly, the whole auditorium erupted in a standing ovation. Even the teachers had tears in their eyes. Darren sat frozen, his face pale. Backstage, the twins didn't know what to do. They had expected laughter, not cheers. A teacher gently pulled them aside, wiping her eyes. "Girls, that was..." Before she could finish, a man stepped forward from behind the curtains. Tall, calm, kind-eyed. Keanu Reeves. "Hi," he said, softly. "I think you both just changed something in this world." The twins blinked in disbelief. We know you," Leena whispered. Keanu smiled. "And I want the world to know you too." What happened next would echo far beyond the school walls. It would start with one song and end in a way no one could have imagined. The promise behind the curtain The moment Keanu Reeves stepped forward from behind the curtain, it was as if time froze again. The students who were still cheering slowly sat back down, confused whispers spreading like wildfire. No one had expected to see a Hollywood actor in their rundown school auditorium, and the twins, Leena and Lara, stood like statues, unsure if they were dreaming. Keanu bent down a little to speak gently at their eye level. "You both were amazing," he said, his voice warm and honest. "Who taught you to sing like that?" Lara blinked. "No one," she said softly. "We just sing together. Always have." Leena added, "Our mom sings, at home, and sometimes in the alley behind the bakery." Keanu looked into their eyes and saw something that reminded him of his own childhood. The quiet strength, the pain buried under layers of hope. He had seen many performers in his life, some trained by the best coaches in the world, but what he had just heard from these two girls came from something deeper. He turned to the music teacher, who was still holding her breath. "I'd like to speak to the principal, if that's okay." The teacher, stunned, nodded quickly and ran backstage to find the principal. Keanu then looked back at the girls. "Do you trust me?" he asked. They looked at each other. Then Lara whispered, "Yes." He smiled. "Good. Because I think this is just the beginning." Back in the audience, Darren had slipped out of his seat and was now hiding in the hallway, his face red. He had told his friends the twins would embarrass themselves. Instead, they were being praised by one of the most respected actors in the world. One of his friends found him. "Dude, you're going viral," he said, showing his phone. A student had filmed the performance and caught Darren's laughter at the beginning. Now it was online, and people were not happy. "Why would you make fun of them?" one comment said. "This is bullying," and they still sang better than anyone. "Karma is real, and her name is Leena." Darren's hands shook as he tried to delete his own posts, but it was too late. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, Keanu sat across from a confused and slightly nervous man in a wrinkled shirt and an old tie. "Mr. Reeves," the principal began, "this is very unexpected. To what do we owe this honor?" Keanu smiled politely. "I came to support the music program, but now I want to do more. I want to help Leena and Lara." The principal raised an eyebrow. "Those girls?" Keanu nodded. "They need a real opportunity. I want to pay for private vocal training, professional studio time, and if you can arrange it, I'd like them to sing at the city's cultural showcase next month." The principal nearly dropped his pen. "Sir, that event is invitation only. It's held at the City Opera House. People train for years to perform there." "Then maybe it's time for a new kind of story," Keanu replied. When Leena and Lara returned home that night, their mother was waiting anxiously. They told her everything in one breath, how they sang, how everyone clapped, and how Keanu Reeves wanted to help them. Their mother listened with wide eyes, her hand covering her mouth. "Baby," she whispered. "You're not joking, right?" They both shook their heads. "No, Mama," Leena said. "He said it's just the beginning." And it was. The next few days were a whirlwind. Keanu made arrangements for vocal training with a respected but humble coach named Miss Evelyn, who had once trained performers for Broadway before moving to a quiet town to care for her sick husband. When Keanu explained who the girls were, she agreed without hesitation. "I want to hear those voices," she said. The first lesson was hard. Miss Evelyn was kind but strict. She didn't let the girls cut corners. "You sing from your heart," she told them. "But now you must also learn to sing with control." They practiced every evening after school. Their mother sat nearby, watching with proud eyes as her daughters slowly grew into themselves. Even their voices changed, richer, fuller, stronger. Keanu would drop by quietly sometimes, bringing tea or snacks for the family, never making a scene. The girls began calling him Uncle K. He laughed every time but never corrected them. One night after practice, Leena asked, "Why are you helping us?" Keanu looked thoughtful. "Because once, someone helped me, and I never forgot it." He didn't say more, but that silence held a story. The city cultural showcase was now 2 weeks away. Posters were up, names announced, and for the first time, ever, a school act was listed beside professional performers. Leena and Lara, twin harmony from the heart of the streets. Online, people were talking. Who are these girls? I heard Keanu Reeves discovered them. Their school performance has 3 million views. But not everyone was happy. Darren's father was a member of the city council, and when he heard the twins were invited, he made a call. They're not trained, he said. This is a serious event. We can't have amateurs on stage. The organizer hesitated. Mr. Reeves personally backed them, and their performance, it was incredible. But Darren's father wasn't finished. Either they're off the list, or my daughter drops out, and she's your headline act. A choice had to be made, and the next morning the twins got a letter in the mail. We regret to inform you that your performance has been removed from the city showcase lineup due to program changes. They stared at it, confused and heartbroken. Leena whispered, "Did we do something wrong?" Lara crumpled the paper in her hand. "No, someone just doesn't want us there." And when Keanu found out, his eyes grew cold for the first time. "Then we make our own stage," he said. They tried to silence them. The letter sat on the kitchen table like a shadow. It was meant to be just paper, just words, but to Leena and Lara, it felt like someone had pulled the ground from beneath their feet. Their names had been erased, their chance taken. They didn't even know why. Keanu sat quietly across from them, his hands clasped, his eyes focused. He had seen injustice before, in studios, in contracts, in the streets, but somehow this cut deeper. Maybe because it was so familiar. 2 kids with dreams, told they weren't good enough, not because of talent, but because of status. Lara finally broke the silence. "We did everything right. We practiced. We worked hard." "You did more than right," Keanu said. "But some people get scared when truth walks onto their polished stage." Leena looked up. "So what now? Do we just stop?" Keanu shook his head. "No, we find a bigger stage." 2 days later, news began to spread that Keanu Reeves was organizing a live music event in the city center, a community showcase for unheard voices. No ticket cost, no fancy dresses, no elite guest list, just stories, songs, and soul. People thought it was a rumor at first. But when his team began setting up a stage in Lincoln Park, and posters appeared with his signature on them, everyone started paying attention. He named the event Voices Unchained. Keanu reached out to performers who had once struggled, a violinist who used to play on subway platforms, a dancer who had once been homeless, a poet who spoke without a tongue, using signs and rhythm. And at the heart of it all, Leena and Lara, while others doubted, Keanu doubled down. He arranged lights, sound systems, live streams. He personally called Miss Evelyn and asked her to prepare the girls for something even greater than an opera house. "They won't just sing," he told her. "They'll heal." But trouble wasn't done chasing them. Darren's father, enraged by the buzz around Keanu's event, called a press conference. He accused the actor of undermining tradition and promoting unqualified performers for publicity. Reporters swarmed. Some asked hard questions, others tried to stir drama. Keanu stepped in front of the cameras only once. He said just one line, "I'm not here for tradition. I'm here for truth." And then he walked away. Meanwhile, Leena and Lara trained harder than ever. Miss Evelyn pushed them beyond limits they didn't know existed. Breathing exercises, pronunciation drills, stage movement, emotion control. Sometimes they cried in frustration. Sometimes they sang until their voices cracked. But every night they got stronger. One evening, after a long rehearsal, Lara sat on the rooftop, looking at the stars. Keanu joined her with 2 mugs of warm milk. "You know," she said, "I used to think we were small, like invisible." "You're not," Keanu said. "You were just waiting for the world to notice." She looked at him. "Do you think, after this, they'll still hear us?" He nodded slowly. "Not just hear you. They'll feel you." On the day of the event, the city pulsed with energy. Lincoln Park had never looked like this. People came in thousands, some curious, some hopeful, some simply needing something real. Giant screens showed the lineup. Music played from morning till dusk. Food trucks lined the sidewalks, kids danced, elders clapped, and when the sun began to set, the final act was announced. Please welcome Leena and Lara. The girls stood, backstage, hands trembling. They wore matching dresses, soft blue, simple, elegant. Donated by a small local designer who had seen their video online and wanted to help. Miss Evelyn adjusted their collars one last time. Keanu stood nearby, nodding. Gently, you ready? He asked. They didn't answer with words. They walked forward, onto the stage, and into the light. As they stood before the microphone, the crowd went still. No music yet, just silence. Then Leena stepped closer. We were told we didn't belong on a big stage, she said softly, but someone gave us a voice. Lara continued. So tonight we sing for every kid who was told to stay quiet. Then the music began, the same song they had sung at school. But this time it was different, fuller, grander. Their voices soared above the buildings, above the noise of the city. They reached hearts that had been hardened. They broke down walls of judgment. Strangers held hands. Some cried openly. Parents hugged their children, and far away in a hospital room, a lonely old man watched the live stream on his phone and whispered, "Thank you." When they finished, the city roared. No longer silence, only sound. Loud, pure, unstoppable. As the twins stood blinking under the stage lights, Keanu walked out to them. He didn't say anything. He just opened his arms, and they ran into them. Tears and laughter mixing into something beautiful. Media outlets covered the story. KeanuReeves launches new music movement. From bullied twins to breakout stars. A voice can change everything. And then, something unexpected happened. A well-known producer from a major music label reached out, not to Keanu, but to their mother. He had seen the performance, and he didn't want a contract. He wanted to sponsor their schooling and support their art without controlling their future. Keanu smiled when he heard. This is how it should be, he said. But one last twist was waiting. That night, as the park emptied, a boy stood behind, the crowd watching from a distance. Darren. His eyes weren't mocking anymore. They were heavy, full of regret. And slowly, he stepped forward. The boy with no voice, the park lights were still glowing softly as the crowd thinned out. Camera, crews packed their gear, volunteers gathered water bottles, and the last few notes of music still echoed in the warm night air. Keanu stood near the stage with Leena and Lara beside him, their small hands holding his tightly. Their eyes sparkled with pride and exhaustion, the kind of tired that comes only after turning pain into purpose. Behind them, unnoticed by most, stood Darren. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders slumped, and his face looked nothing like the smirking boy from the school hallways. He didn't come with friends. He didn't hold a phone to record or take pictures. He just stood there watching. He didn't know what he was waiting for. Maybe forgiveness, maybe punishment, maybe just a chance to be seen for who he really was. Keanu turned around first. He noticed the boy. And even before Darren could speak, Keanu's expression softened. Not with anger, not with judgment, but with something deeper, understanding. You came, Keanu said quietly. Darren's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked down, ashamed. I don't know why I did it, Darren finally said, his voice shaking. I thought it was funny, making them sing, thought everyone would laugh. I didn't know. He stopped. Leena stepped forward. She looked at him, not with hate, but with quiet strength. You didn't know we could sing. I didn't know you were human, he whispered. The air felt heavier. Lara, standing beside her sister, added softly, We forgive you. Darren blinked. Why? Keanu answered, stepping closer. Because carrying hate only makes your heart heavier. And these girls, their hearts are meant to fly. Darren looked up. For the first time, there were tears in his eyes. I can't sing. I can't do anything. I just joke. Maybe, Keanu said. You just haven't found your voice yet. And with that, something shifted in Darren's chest. Not all wounds heal in one night. But something broke open. A space for growth, for truth. The next day, photos of the event covered newspapers and online feeds. Voices unchained. A movement begins. The twins who silenced a city. Keanu Reeves says he's just getting started. Offers came pouring in. Interviews, sponsorships, donations to the school. But Keanu set one rule. Everything had to stay focused on the message, not the fame. This isn't a spotlight, he told reporters. It's a mirror, for all the kids who think they don't matter. Keanu also made a quiet visit to the school principal. The man looked nervous as Keanu entered. Mr. Reeves, I want to apologize for what happened. The twins being removed. I didn't know the pressure that was being applied. Keanu leaned forward, calm but firm. They didn't need that stage. But you still owe them an apology. The principal nodded, cheeks flushed. Yes, I'll arrange it today. And he did. During morning assembly, Leena and Lara were called to the front. The entire student body watched in silence. The principal cleared his throat and looked down at the paper he had prepared, then decided to speak from his heart instead. Sometimes adults fail to see what children carry inside. These girls showed us what courage looks like. And for our mistake, I'm truly sorry. Applause filled the hall. Some students even stood. Darren, sitting in the second row, clapped the loudest. Later, in music class, Miss Evelyn surprised the class with a new project. Everyone will pair up, she said, and write a short song together. No grades, no pressure, just expression. Darren glanced around. No one moved toward him. Then Leena did. We'll pair with you, she said. Lara smiled. But only if you write the first verse. He laughed, nervous but grateful. Deal. Outside of school, Keanu continued working behind the scenes. He started a non-profit foundation called Open Chords, focused on bringing music and mentorship to underprivileged children. He named Leena and Lara the founding stars. Meanwhile, something else quietly unfolded. A famous vocal coach in Europe saw the twins' performance. She contacted Miss Evelyn and offered full scholarships for the girls to attend a summer arts program in Italy. Flight, room, tuition, all covered. Keanu sat with their mother that night, showing her the email. You won't owe anything, he promised. You'll still be in charge, I'll just help get them there. Their mother wiped her eyes. You're not just helping them. You're giving them what I never had. Hope. Before the twins left, the city held a goodbye celebration in Lincoln Park. This time, it wasn't just about music. It was about movement. Hundreds of kids from different schools came. They brought their own songs, their poems, their stories. One even painted a mural of the twins with the words, "You can't silence what was born to sing." Leena and Lara stood before the crowd one last time. We don't know where this road will lead, Leena said. But we know where it started. Lara added, right here, with all of you. And as they walked off stage, a familiar hand held the curtain open for them. Keanu, always there, always watching, always believing. And as the plane soared through the clouds days later, taking the girls to Italy, he sat in his small home, watching the live stream again. Not as a star, not as a hero, just as a man who once needed a voice and found it by helping others find theirs. Voices in Italy. The plane touched down in Italy just as the sun began to rise, casting a soft golden glow over the green hills and cobbled streets. Leena and Lara stared out the window, wide-eyed. It felt like a dream. 1 month ago, they were being laughed at in a school hallway. Now, they were walking through Rome's Fiumicino airport, holding passports for the first time. Miss Evelyn had traveled with them, her eyes just as bright. She had always believed in music's power, but even she couldn't believe how far things had come. Their mother had hugged them tightly at the airport back home and whispered, "Sing for those who never got the chance." As they stepped out into the crisp Italian air, a cheerful woman holding a sign with their names greeted them. "Benvenuti, Leena e Lara," she beamed. "I am Sophia. I will take care of you while you're here." Sophia drove them through winding roads lined with vineyards and stone houses until they reached the academy, a stunning place surrounded by olive trees and soft piano music drifting from open windows. Children from all over the world had gathered there to learn music, dance, and art. But Leena and Lara were the only ones who had gotten in without auditions. Some of the other students noticed. "Who are they?" whispered a girl in a silk dress. "I heard they didn't even have formal training," said a boy with perfect posture. Leena heard it. So did Lara. And for a moment, the pain from home crept back in. The feeling of being too poor, too unknown, too small. But then Leena whispered, "We've been here before." Lara nodded, and we sang anyway. The days that followed were intense. Classes started early and ended late. The teachers were kind but firm. They corrected the girls' breathing, posture, and pitch. They had to learn to read music, memorize lyrics in Italian and German, and perform duets with strangers. Some nights they sat on their beds, exhausted and close to tears. "We don't belong here," Leena would whisper. But Lara always replied, the same way. Keanu said we do. Back in Los Angeles, Keanu followed their journey every day. Sophia sent him videos and pictures. Leena learning how to hold a note longer. Lara practicing her Italian diction. The two of them laughing with Miss Evelyn by a fountain. One evening, Keanu was invited to speak at a charity gala. Surrounded by stars and cameras, he stepped onto the stage, but his voice didn't speak of films or awards. "I want to tell you about two girls," he said, "who were laughed at for using their voices, until their voices changed everything." The crowd leaned in. Many wept. Others donated. Meanwhile, back in Italy, the twins were told about a special event, the Academy's final concert. It was the most important performance of the year. Students would sing before world-renowned musicians, critics, and talent scouts. Leena and Lara were chosen to perform the final act. Some clapped, some rolled their eyes. "It's a charity case," someone mumbled. But the headmistress, Madame Corsi, silenced the whispers. "We do not choose based on background," she said. "We choose based on heart." The night arrived. The Academy's grand hall shimmered with golden lights. Velvet curtains swayed gently as the audience filled in. Ambassadors, producers, opera legends. The twins stood backstage, their dresses simple, their hands cold. "Nervous?" Miss Evelyn asked softly. Leena nodded. "More than ever." Lara took a deep breath. "But we're ready." As the curtain rose, the music began. Their song was an original composition, written with Miss Evelyn, inspired by their life. The first lines spoke of alleyways and broken shoes, of hunger and laughter, of songs sung in the dark, and their voices. They weren't just beautiful. They were haunting, flawless, alive, filled with memory and courage. Not a single soul in that grand room made a sound, not even a breath. As they sang the final note, the hall stayed still for 3 full seconds. Then, thunderous applause. The audience stood, some cried, others clapped until their hands were red. In the back row, a famous conductor whispered, "They don't need music, they are music." Later that night, after the performance, the headmistress handed them letters, invites from 3 prestigious music schools asking the twins to apply for full scholarships. But there was something else too, a small white envelope with no label. Inside, a handwritten note. "You didn't just find your voice. You gave the world a reason to listen. Uncle Ka." Attached to it was a tiny silver charm, 2 birds in flight. The twins held it close. "We have to go back home," Leena said quietly. Lara nodded. "They need to hear us there too." Before leaving Italy, they recorded a special message for their school. In it, they said. "We're not famous. We're not rich. We're just two girls who refuse to stay quiet." And when the video played in their school auditorium days later, even the bullies watched in silence. Even Darren, who now spent his time helping in music class, clapped with a proud smile. But the story wasn't over, because when the twins stepped off the plane back home, cameras flashed, fans waited, reporters called out, and behind them, walking quietly with sunglasses and a warm grin, was Keanu. "Welcome home," he said. "Ready for the next chapter?" They looked at him, eyes shining, more ready than ever. Echo louder than fame. The airport was buzzing when Leena and Lara returned home, but they didn't rush toward the flashing cameras or screaming fans. They held their mother's hands tightly, heads low, hearts still adjusting. This wasn't a victory parade. For them, it was a homecoming, and standing quietly behind them, just as he had done since the beginning, was Keanu Reeves. "Uncle K," Leena whispered as they walked toward the waiting car. "Was it always like this for you?" He smiled gently. "No, but I learned early. Attention fades, but impact stays." Lara looked at the crowd. "So what do we do now?" Keanu's reply was simple. "We make it count." Over the next few weeks, life didn't slow down. Invitations came from TV shows, international competitions, and even a film studio that wanted the twins to star in a musical based on their life. Their faces were printed in magazines and websites with headlines like, "The Twin Songbirds That Brought Hollywood to Tears," "From Alleyways to Arias, How Keanu Reeves Changed Two Lives Forever." They were mocked for singing. Now they're shaping the future of music. But the girls weren't interested in fame. Not like that. They had seen something bigger during their journey. They had felt what it meant to be invisible, and they had no desire to become untouchable. Instead, they asked Keanu for help, again. "We want to open a school," Leena said one night. "Not for the rich, for kids like us." Lara added, "Someplace where no one laughs when you sing off key, where they help you try again." Keanu didn't say a word at first. He simply nodded and got to work. He contacted architects, teachers, and musicians. He raised funds quietly without calling press. He found a piece of land just blocks from their old school and named the future building the Harmony House. And the day the foundation stone was laid, Leena and Lara held the shovel together, dirt clinging to their fingers as they smiled for the first photo, not as stars but as builders. As the school slowly rose from the ground, they returned to performing, but always with purpose. They visited underfunded schools, gave free workshops, performed in shelters, and even sang in children's hospitals. Their voices were no longer just music. They were medicine. They were proof. Meanwhile, Keanu stayed by their side, not in the spotlight but in quiet moments. He attended their rehearsals, their small concerts, and even their family dinners. To them, he was never a celebrity. He was the man who saw them when no one else did. One day during a small community concert, a girl named Miriam approached them after the show. She was shy, wearing second-hand shoes and holding a crumpled notebook. "Can I sing too?" she asked nervously. "Always," Leena said, kneeling beside her. Lara smiled. "What's your song?" The girl looked around. "I don't know yet, I just feel like there's one inside." "Then let's help you find it," the twins said together. And just like that, it started again. Years passed. Harmony House grew. By the 5th year, it had over 300 students from all backgrounds. The twins taught classes themselves when they weren't traveling. Miss Evelyn became the head of the music department, and Darren, now older and wiser, returned to volunteer every summer. But something even greater happened. More schools began opening in other cities under the same model, all supported by the Open Chords Foundation, all inspired by two voices that refused to be silenced. On the 10th anniversary of their first school performance, a grand event was held at Lincoln Park, the same place where they had once turned rejection into a standing ovation. This time they weren't performers. They were hosts, and standing on the very same stage, Leena took the microphone. 10 years ago, we were dared to sing. As a joke. But that joke became our beginning. Lara continued. If someone tells you that your voice doesn't matter, sing louder. The crowd clapped, some crying, others standing in awe. Then they turned to the side of the stage where Keanu stood. We couldn't have done this without him, Leena said. He didn't just help us sing, Lara added. He taught us to believe. Keanu walked onto the stage slowly, hands in his pockets, a quiet smile on his face. The twins handed him a small box. Inside was a medal carved from reclaimed wood, with 3 birds in flight and a word beneath them. Guide. Keanu looked at it for a long moment, then he looked at them. You were always flying, he said. I just opened the window. And as the sun set behind them, a choir of children from Harmony House stood behind the twins. They sang the same song Leena and Lara had sung 10 years ago. The same notes, the same heart. But this time, there were hundreds of voices. Voices that had once been small. Voices that had once been laughed at, now louder than ever. As the crowd rose, as the music soared, and as the night filled with light, Keanu stood beside the twins, silent, proud, and peaceful. He had made movies. He had won awards. But this was his masterpiece.